Breaking tonight, hours after Omaha celebrated hometown boxing champ Bud Crawford's accomplishments with a parade, he's pulled over by Omaha police, setting off a social media firestorm. Good evening, I'm Brian Mastry.
And I'm Zena Taher. Today is Bud Crawford's birthday. He turned 38. What happened at the traffic stop early this morning in downtown Omaha is now the subject of an internal investigation at the police department.
First Alert 6 reporter Andrew Pfeiffer tonight with reaction from the mayor and Omaha police. He also talked to one of the people in Crawford's vehicle, and Andrew joins us live in the newsroom. Andrew?
Brian, Zena, new details emerging from an incident early this morning surrounding Terrence Bud Crawford and his security team. It escalated to a point where guns were drawn by police. Now, just over the weekend, a parade was held for the pound-for-pound champ. He was awarded the second key to the city from Mayor John Ewing. But later that night, that celebration turned to fear for those inside the vehicle pulled over just a couple blocks from where the party was held. Police say they pulled over a vehicle for reckless driving at around 12th and Cass. Once they had stopped, Crawford was identified as the driver. According to police, officers observed a firearm on the floorboard on the driver's side. All four people, including members of Crawford's security team, were ordered out of the vehicle at gunpoint. I spoke with the head of Crawford's security this afternoon, who says he's still shaken up.
I thought we were getting ready to lose our lives. That was a nightmare. You know, future husband. Just had a brand new child and, children and stuff like that. And to know that I almost lost my life last night because we had a police officer that don't know how to articulate a traffic stop.
Thankfully, nobody was hurt, and Crawford was issued a citation for reckless driving. All the firearms inside the vehicle were also all legally owned. In a statement from the mayor today, it reads, quote, "I learned Omaha police pulled over Terrence Bud Crawford on a traffic stop downtown early this morning. After learning of this, I spoke personally to Bud Crawford. I acknowledged the seriousness of what occurred and how trust between law enforcement and our community is important and shows the need to be continuously vigilant about building relationships." Now, for that full quote, you can visit our website at firstalert6.com. Tonight at 10, I'll have the full reaction from Bud Crawford's security guard, as well as tips on if you find yourself pulled over while carrying legal firearms. Brian, Zena?
Andrew, thank you.
Step out.
Opening the door. You can take mine off right here on my right. I'm keeping my fucking hands up. I'm not reaching for no gun, bro.
Step out.
Can I move my...
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, the four elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Yeah, Jake, you can't escape the curse, homie. You know, it don't matter how famous you are. You know, you got money, you got a fan base. You know, that don't mean nothing to Esau. You know, at the end of the day, they still have to demonstrate to you that, you're still a nigga at the end of the day. And you're under their jurisdiction, you're under their rule. You know, so just because you're famous, don't mean nothing. You know, and he, fortunate for him, he made it out unscathed. You know, he got to walk away with his life. But, this is, hey, we behind enemy lines in Babylon the Great. You know, and in these type of situations, you just gotta move accordingly. You know, we already know the scriptures, tell us to agree with our adversary quickly, while you're in the way with them. Matter of fact, let me grab that. That'll be the first one I grab. And I'm pretty sure they was all, well, I don't know about Bud, but the bodyguard, he explained that they was in fear. You know, he said, I'm a future husband. I just had a child, and I was in fear of my life. You know, I could have got my life taken. Well, you can't escape the curse. All right. This is Matthew 5:25, and it says, agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with them, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. And you know, these devils, they're looking for any little reason to try to get you into the system. They don't like seeing Jake in their excellency, man. You know, this dude, you know, celebrating, you know, his achievement in the boxing world, like 3-time undisputed, you know, undefeated. You know, the mayor gave him the keys to the city. So this guy, you know, he get the ultimate level of honor in his city. You know, getting the parade, and then later that same night, you know, you get pulled over by a Centurion, and he itching, looking for a reason. And they could have went bad, man, real bad. You know, so, you know, it was a good thing that he got out the car and he did what he needed to do. Because these devils, man, they be itching. All right. They still on that timing, man. And we under Trump's America right now. All right. These devils, they trying to take it back to, you know, the Jim Crow era. You know, when, you know, white nationalism, you know, Jake, you know, being up under their fingertips, you know, them in total control and intimidation. You know, they trying to bring it back to them times right now. You know, let me go to the curse. Because just because you famous and rich, that don't mean that you exempt. You know, this is what Jake is up under, man. This is what we have to face. Deuteronomy 28:15, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city. Hey, he's in Omaha, you know. And, you know, Jay got to live and deal with the elements of society, you know, dealing with the oppression, dealing with these racist ass devils, you know, oppressing you. You know, of course, you know, you driving in a luxurious vehicle and there's nothing but niggas in there. That's more than a reason for them to harass you, pull you over and harass you. Oh, you was driving erratically, you know, you wasn't following the speed limit, or you was driving, you know, whatever they accuse you of. You know, but you, when they pull you over, man, you just comply, humble yourself, be easygoing, don't give them a reason. You know, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. All right, and it goes into all these series of curses. All right, punishments. Let me go down though. Let's go to I'll read verse 29. It says, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed. You know, so you can, you know, find some little pocket of success in this world, but it only goes so far under this devil's authority. He'll still put you in your place. You know, I'm pretty sure that officer wanted to do more than what he did. You know, could have Jack Johnson or Solomon Northup his ass. You know, try to find a way to put you back in the system, or even put you down, take your life. They just need a reason. You know, with Jack Johnson, you know, this you know, who's famous boxer. He you know, he was a champ in that ring. You know, he went to town, and you know, he was a very skillful boxer. And you know, he was a ladies' man. A lot of women, you know, took a liking to him, including, of course, the Edomite woman, the snow bunnies. Back then, when niggas was still getting hung and all that, and he didn't like how he was running through they women, and he would take women, and I guess he'll be in states where it would be illicit for him to be dealing with them, so he would take them across state lines into other states to deal with them. So what Esau did, he ended up creating a law called the Mann Act, where basically it basically curbs prostitution and trafficking. But it was such a vague interpretation of this law, and they used that against him. And he ended up being the first Jake, or the first person in general that was convicted under that particular act or that law. Just to basically send him a message. Like, nigga, don't get beside yourself just because you rich and famous. So they made an example out of Jack Johnson. So all these other celebrities and athletes and entertainers, it's no different for them. You just a higher paid slave. That's all you are to them. Even a low level Edomite. So under the curse, it says, thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt only be oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. The officer had his gun out. So he was looking for action. And Bud couldn't be Super Bud. He couldn't be Aqua Bud this time. You look up that word oppressed. The word is Ishak. And it says to press upon, oppress, violate. And these officers, because they have that badge and they're enforcers of the law, they like to press upon you. They'll press you, pull you over and interrogate you, intimidate you, talk crazy to you. So you got to deal real easy with them. To press upon, oppress, violate, defraud, do violence. They'll get violent with you real quick. Get deceitfully wrong, extort, meaning, when you exploit somebody and, you exploit their pockets, extortion, that's a form of oppression. Esau, they'll just oppress you through the law, through the system. We'll pick your pockets by, bring you up under a bogus charge or an infraction. Now you got to pay this fine, or you got to, do some jail time or community service. That's oppression, man. Because I went, 5-10 miles per hour faster than the speed limit. Let Esau go 30 miles per hour above, and they ain't messing with him. It's you, Jakes. You got to follow the law. Because that lets you know that you're not sovereign. You're under someone else's rule. If you were sovereign, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But like the scriptures say in Hebrews, we have no continuing city, but one to come. We're longing for one to come. All right. The scriptures say in Micah 2:10, I write you and depart, for this is not your rest. All right. So even your entertainers get mistreated. They ain't all special, especially to E. All right. It says, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. All right. Let me jump down. No, let me actually go down, because it also tells us that your life shall hang in doubt. Like if y'all heard that that news segment where the security that was in the car, he was describing basically being afraid for his life. Deuteronomy 28:65, it says, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. You know, you a celebrity, you know, you famous, you got security, but you still gotta, you know, your life still hanging in doubt. They could have made an example out of Bud or whoever was in that car. But, you know, Bud, and the officer, he knew who he was. He knew exactly who he was. But the point was to show him his place. That was what that was. All right. In the morning thou shalt say, with God it were even, and at evening thou shalt say, with God it were morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. You know, so they went from, you know, being celebratory and joyful to, you know, nervousness, fear. You know, because you never know when Esau pulls you over. What intentions they got is usually not good. That's why the scriptures say to, you know, when the Lord's, when your ways please the Lord, he'll make even his enemies be at peace with thee. And a lot of you know, their ways piss the Most High off, so they usually end up getting judged. And remember, Romans the 13th chapter, it says that he bears not the sword in vain. You know, so you gotta, you know, submit yourself to the powers that be. You know, we're not sovereign, man. We're not in our kingdom. So it don't matter who you are. It don't matter what status you hold. You're under their jurisdiction. You're under their rule. All right. And let me get this in Daniel, because it said that this would happen to us. You know, we're gonna get worn out. It is Daniel 7:25. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. You know, this is dealing with the beast, you know, which we, you know, we're living in the time of the beast, you know, the 7 heads, the 10 horns, or the 10 toes. And in America, you know, stems from that beast, and actually rides the beast. It has the authority. All right. They showed you in the UN, Trump, you know, he was threatening these other nations and sending them to hell, because, hey, that's prophecy. His look is more stout than his other fellows, looking down on these other nations. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And the saints are the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and natives. All right, we're the saints of the Most High. Now it says, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand, meaning we're going to be under his control until a time and times in the dividing of time. When you look up that word for wear out, and the word is Bala. I think that's because Daniel was written in Aramaic. And it says to wear away, to wear out, to harass constantly. All right. And is that not the treatment we get? We get harassed on a daily basis. So you got to stay within confines. You got to, you know, follow these perimeters, you know, these penal codes, this law, that law. You got to know the law. It's like, it should have wear you out, man. This society will wear you out. You know, and you know, when you're dealing with E, you gotta make sure that you moving right. Scripture say to make no fault. When you in the way with him, Sirach, the 9th chapter, in verse 13, and it says, keep thee far from the man that have power to kill, so thou shalt not doubt the fear of death. And if thou come unto him, make no fault. When you the officer of the law, and you come unto him, don't make no fault. Don't give him a reason. Lest he take away thy life presently. You end up like Mike Brown. You end up like Tamir Rice. You know, all these different Jakes that have lost their life. You know, it says, in that thou walkest upon the battlements, Slakia. Remember that thou goest in the midst of snares, and that thou walkest upon the battlements of the city. So, yeah, man. So even Bud got to get that wake up call. Yeah, you just made 3-time undisputed, world champion, pound for pound. You just beat Canelo. Now your city then held you as king. Got you on your seat at your parade, and then the police can just shut all that down. Like, hey, get your ass out the car. What you driving like that for, nigga? Get out the car with his gun pointed at him. So yeah, we have no continuing city, man. This is not our arrest. So that's all I wanted to say on that. And with that, I'm gonna give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.